Tigercast fans, I think it's about time we talk about some player contract situations on the back of Tom Lynch making a one-year signing today to stay with the club for 2026. But before we get stuck into that, we are chasing another 500 subscribers on our quest to hit 4,000. We're very, very close. We appreciate all the love and support. So if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It's free to do and it helps us out greatly. Let's try and hit that 4,000 by the end of the season. It'll be an unbelievable milestone to reach on the back of the year that we've had so far. But yeah, contract-wise, as we said, Tom Lynch announced today a one-year extension, which I'm going to assume will divide a lot of Richmond people. And I say that because I guess there's one train of thought where people will say that he's taking up a list spot, he's taking up game time development from your Jonty Falls, your Harry Armstrongs, Tom Sims, etc., which I can really understand. Honestly, I can truthfully understand that point of view. The other side of the fence, and it's kind of where I sit, I've maintained for a long time now that I've felt that we did need to keep Tom Lynch and also Dion Prestia, which we'll speak about shortly in more detail, for another season, because I just think that there's not enough experience behind these younger players for them to take over these roles full time. Whilst we love and enjoy what Jonty Fall and Tom Sims and Harry Armstrong have done so far in 2025, 2026 is still... They're still going to be very raw. They're still going to be very inexperienced. And I know as supporters, we often talk about the lack of cohesion and experience in our forward line. Well, if you remove the grandfather in Tom Lynch, then we will be bare bones again, and we're going to have the same struggles that we've seen for most of this year happening again next year. And we still might see some of those struggles next year, so I don't want to say that this will automatically go away, because we'll still see some. But I think having Tom Lynch out there as a mentor, as a coach, which is something he's really embraced, I think is really, really important for the development and the growth of Fall, Armstrong and Sims. And to have that real-time chance to play with someone like Tom Lynch and to learn the craft from him is going to be invaluable. Like it's such an underrated thing to have at our disposal. A premiership forward, one of the best of his kind in the last, let's say, 7-8 years, who was instrumental in the success that we've had. I think it's going to be a lot of good lessons passed on. And we could already see in pre-season the vision of him teaching the young guys. He was even doing some work with Smiley as well that we saw early days. So I'm all for Lynch playing for another year. I do think, though, that what we might see, and this is just my opinion, this is no knowledge outside of that whatsoever, but I do think that as 2026 gets on, I won't be surprised if there's a bit of a changing of the guard at around the halfway mark of the year, where we maybe see him a little bit less and see the other younger guys take over a little bit more. I would assume that next year would probably be his last year, most likely. And it's no secret that he's already begun to slow down in a couple of ways. He's not as fast as he used to be, and I've put forward my thoughts on making sure that he's not the last or the guy on the mark, essentially, so teams can't just kind of walk it out of our back line. If we can fix that, I think that's really going to help our defensive structure in the forward line. But from an offensive standpoint, he's still a wonderful mark and a usually reliable shot for goal, which is something that we desperately need. And most importantly, he takes the heat off some of these youngsters. He allows Jonty Fall, Armstrong and Sims to have a second or third defender on him rather than the first defender. And I think that's going to be the most vital part of this. But this only works in our favour if we cut the bombing it long on top of his head stuff. That's got to stop, because by doing that, we're just inviting all other players to converge on his spot, kill the contest, and we're really no better off. I really do think that for this to be of use to us, we need to be more disciplined in lowering our eyes. And I know that he maybe can't get up and down the ground a bit more on leads like he used to, but we've got to start utilising your Jonty Fall, your Sims, let them get into space and lead. And maybe if we leave Lynch isolated one out, so he's not dealing with 3 or 4 players converging on him, I think that's going to be our best way forward to have a bit more of a better output from our forward line next year, which, to be honest, we all know that we need. So that's my thoughts on Lynch. But I'm wrapped for it, honestly. I think it was the right call. But I can understand the argument from the other side of the fence, and I've got no doubt there'll be some divided opinion in the comments, which is fine. That's what discussion's all about. But I thought we would also take a look at some other players that are coming up to be out of contract shortly. We haven't done that yet on this channel. So we'll jump over to a list that's been compiled by RT on Big Footy, which is very, very kind of him. And we'll go through the list. All right, so here we are with the contract list. As I said, courtesy of RT on Big Footy. It's in one easy to read space. Now, obviously, Lynch on this list does need to be updated to be removed. He's now contracted till the end of 2026, which is good. So in terms of the players who are expiring, we've obviously got Jacob Bauer there, Hayes Brown, Tyler Young, Tyler Sonsie, Campbell Gray, Dion Prestia, Caleb Smith, Jacob Blight, Matei Kalina, Camden McIntosh, and Thompson Dow. Now, there was obviously a little bit of speculation in the media recently about Dion Prestia being offered 1 year as well, which, again, I know will divide Richmond supporters' opinions, and I'm probably on the side that think, again, that's a good move. We've seen the value of his leadership, and I know this is a very isolated moment in time, but all you have to do is look on the club website at the mic'd up Dion Prestia video to see what type of guidance and leadership he's able to offer on the field. So to give these young kids that experience and that leadership in real time, in real scenarios, I think helps them tremendously for the future. And I, again, understand the argument that maybe it means he's going to take some more midfield minutes away from a Lawler, a Houghton, a Smiley, a Campbell, whoever it might be. And while that is probably technically true, the reality is that those youngsters won't be at a level yet next year to play a full midfield role like Dion Prestia does. And I think we're still better to have Dion in there for bulk of that, and then just maybe shift the workload ever so slightly where, again, similar to Tom Lynch, I think we'll see a phased approach where the workload might decrease as the year goes on. We'll see the younger kids in there more and more and more. That's what I would hope for anyway, as they keep imparting their wisdom and knowledge into these young players in a quest to build them up to be AFL midfielders. But I think we would be naive and a little bit silly to think that we could just cut midfield, like an experienced midfielder, an experienced forward, and think these kids can step up and do it. I think we would experience a little bit of pain if we did that. And maybe some people would prefer that, and I can understand and appreciate that as well. I just think this staggered approach and just dragging it out one more year, I think will help out. But from this 2025 list, I guess this is where we may see some calls happening at the end of the year. If we're talking about players who may be on the chopping block, to use lack of a better term, you would assume, well, maybe let's try and identify the players who we think will get re-signed, I guess. I would hazard a guess that Hayes Brown will get re-signed. I would strongly suggest that Tyler Young will get re-signed. I think Sonsie's done enough to get re-signed, but he may want other opportunity elsewhere, which I can also appreciate, but I think he's done enough to get another year. Campbell Gray, I think you would have to categorically re-sign. Dion Prestia, I've just mentioned there's speculation that he will. Caleb Smith is one that's probably on the cusp, I guess. Hasn't been able to cement full minutes in the AFL. He does okay at the VFL, and I'm not sure if he will be kept around or whether we've got enough coverage in that position, so he could be one that might be in some trouble. Jacob Blight, I think we've all resigned to the fact that he's being traded. I know some people think he's not AFL level. I think he shows plenty of AFL qualities, and I don't think he did a lot wrong in the game that he got dropped from. And I just feel like there's something else going on there that we don't necessarily know about, so I will not be at all shocked if he's traded. Kalina, I think, is probably on the outer as well, although our ruck stocks in the VFL at the moment anyway aren't looking great, but that's probably more of a injury issue. Camden McIntosh, I can see why we would maybe keep him around for another year. However, I do think that in his particular position on the wing, I do think we are now at a point in time where the replacements who have been playing are ones we can progress with consistently on the way forward. I don't know whether we need much more mentoring or coaching in that area, so I wouldn't be shocked if this might be his last season. Maybe he explores options elsewhere if someone else wants an experienced player. But I would think if I'm looking at a trio of Lynch, Prestia, and McIntosh, I feel like he might be the one that doesn't get re-signed if I was to pick one. And which hurts because I've been a huge supporter of Camden McIntosh, but we'll have to see what plays out in that space. Thompson Dow, I've made it very clear that I think that he should get another contract for next year. He was having a really good year this year because he was able to actually play his role at his level. He wasn't being asked to play the number one midfielder like last year, which wasn't what he's meant to do. His role this year was to be an extractor, feed the ball out to our guys who can use it, and he really worked into that role and was playing it very, very well. Was getting a bit more physical, cracking in hard into contests, and I thought he was showing a bit. And I'm not at all suggesting, and I've said this before, but I'm not at all suggesting Thompson Dow to play 22 AFL games next year, because I don't think that's a realistic expectation. But like we all know, there's injuries, there's suspensions, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on. And to have someone like Thompson Dow on your list that can be a plug and play and come in and fill a role, I think is important. Every club has them. Every club needs them. I know there'll be a segment of people who say, no, just why would you keep him for? I think you need to realise that you can't just keep and sign 22 or 24 or 44 A-graders. You've got to have your foot soldiers as well to make up the rest of your list and to enable other players to play their role effectively. And that's what Thompson Dow does. So I would consider keeping him as well. Down to the players who are out of contract next year. Kazitsky, who's a name that I see floated around often for trading or delisting, but I really don't think either of those two things are going to happen. Nick Vlauston, Ryan Mansell, Nankervis, Miller, Ralph Smith, Ross, Broad, Gibcus, Rioli, Lafau, Jasper Elga, Steely Green, Trezise, Juddy Clark, Liam Fawcett. So Fawcett obviously re-signed very recently for that year extension, as did Juddy Clark, I'm pretty sure. So that's really good for them. I'm especially happy for Judson Clark, to be honest. I truthfully do think that he can still make it as a footballer. He's got so much potential and talent, and not to be controversial, but I really do think that week that he did re-injure himself, I really honestly believe he should have been playing AFL that week based on form. But that's a matter for a different time. Out of this list, stranger things have happened, right? I know I just said that because he's probably not going to get delisted. I don't think any of these players will get delisted, so let's probably start there. In terms of trade, I do think there is potential that some of these players may get traded or may be offered for trade, which might be able to net us some other picks to help orchestrate other deals, whether it be for this year's picks or next year's picks. I don't think anyone would be after Kazitsky, bless him. I do respect and appreciate the role he's played for us, though, and I've been on record as saying that many times. Vlauston will be untouchable. Mansell, in my opinion, based on what you see and hear from the club, will be untouchable. Nankervis is clearly untouchable. Ben Miller, untouchable. Hugo, Ralph Smith. If someone was to make offers, I think the club might listen for someone like Hugo. I can see the value he can add to our side, but I know he's out injured at the moment, so it's probably a harsh assessment. But I suppose you want to see what he can do on a more consistent level. But he does have good breakneck speed that I like. So he would be an interesting one. Jack Ross, I think the club would listen if someone asked questions. But I'm talking clubs who come asking it. We're not talking about first round picks here. I wouldn't have thought for some of these guys. Nathan Broad, we all know that 2026 is his last year. He's already said that categorically. Gibcus, we want to see him keep doing good things. Maurice Rioli, I love seeing him in the side, but again, there might be other clubs that might come knocking potentially. They might see another role for him. Lafau, I think, will hang around long term. Jasper, obviously, is just signed. Steely Green, I think, will be wanting to keep working on. Trezise, I really think that he will be cemented as an AFL footballer in our side. If not by the end of this year, because it might be a little bit too close, I think definitely by midway next year, Trezise will be locked and loaded in the 22. I really like what he has to offer, and I can see him going from strength to strength. And there's obviously a few more that are 2027 and beyond. So they're ones we don't have to worry about just yet. But good to see we've got some players locked away, especially Seth Campbell. That's a good signing. We've got the Hopper and Taranto, the Noah Bolter one, which is obviously very controversial. But a good chunk here signed till 2027. And I think the cap goes up again somewhere around this point in time as well. So I've said this before, and I'll say it again. We're obviously got a lot of cash for the now, and I think we could definitely front load someone's contract if they were to want to come across, whether I don't know who that might be. And I know a lot of people's rebuttal is often, but we've got these gun players to re-sign in the future. So like your Lawler, Smiley, Houghton, Fall, Trainer, Armstrong, etc. And I 100% agree. But what I'll say is I firmly believe that our list management team, when it comes to structuring contracts, are one of the best in the competition. We've been able to keep on the books at the same time prime Tom Lynch, Cochin, Dusty, Rewalt, Rance, Grimes, Edwards, Bolton, Rioli. Like, we were able to keep such a great core group of players together with a lot of star quality for an extended period of time that I think this will kind of play out in a similar way, and they'll have no trouble doing it again, especially because there'll be more cap available to do so. So there you go. There's a bit of a look at some of the contract statuses of our players. Again, well done to Tom Lynch for signing a 1-year extension. And it sounds like the Dion Prestia mightn't be too far behind. But let us know what you think in the comments below of the contract list. Do you see any other players that maybe might look for opportunity elsewhere in that 2026 contract range? Would you extend any players by a longer amount? Would you like to see someone locked away? Keen to hear everyone's thoughts in the comments below. But make sure you like and subscribe. And until next time, go Tigers.